and a warm welcome to the 10th episode of the Dadaxi podcast. I'm super happy that you're here with me today again. And there is a song that's just in my mind all the time. It's one of my all-time favorites by Tracy Chapman. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper. And so that's the topic I want to cover today. I want to ask all of you, can we start a revolution? Could we maybe do that? Another revolution on the outside where we burn things or we smash patriarchy or we embody the divine feminine, but an inner revolution where we focus inwardly and really give time and space to our insights. Because, these times for me are really tough. Not only because of the war zones and all of these things that obviously are difficult, but because there are ways to solve this, but nobody's walking those paths. Maybe nobody is it's not true. But very few people are really walking the path of liberation of the matrix. Yeah, most people are stuck in circles of consumption, circles of distraction, and I don't blame anyone. Yeah, that the world is designed to distract you. The world is designed to overflood every one of us with information so that we don't feel ourselves, so that we do not focus on ourselves. They say that the focus span of humans deteriorates, it gets less and less. And I don't think that that's just a coincidence. I don't necessarily believe in conspiracy theories and everything, but there is a certain energy that wants people to stay distracted. Because I said that many times before, I especially say it in my book, humans are super powerful beings. Yeah, we are super powerful. The only way to take away our power is by leading our focus somewhere else, by leading our focus on the outside. Yeah, most of us are doing a lot of things because we want to belong. And it's not necessarily conscious behavior, yeah? We all do certain things because we want to feel like we belong somewhere, yeah? The thing is that this world is not designed to make you feel belong. Because if it would be, capitalism wouldn't work. Yeah, and it's not a conspiracy theory, it's mathematics. Again, I use this word a lot because it's just logical, yeah? If you have a system like capitalism in place, in the way it's designed right now, yeah, everything is under its control. It structures everything, yeah? And capitalism only works as long as we consume, yeah? People that feel like they belong don't have a hole within themselves, and people that don't have holes that they feel within themselves do not consume a lot. Of course they consume, but they consume very little, yeah? So, and here is the thing, that hole that we feel inside, yeah? And some of us might feel it more, some of us might feel it less. I felt it very strongly from a very early age on, is actually that we are missing in the piece. The reason why we feel like we don't belong is because we are taught to leave ourselves very early on. Yeah. Like if you watch little children do things, they are fully in the moment. They do a thing for the joy of doing the thing. Yeah. They don't think about building stuff that lasts. They don't think about the future or the past. They're in the moment. And whatever they do because it brings them joy. And then these children enter school. And maybe in the beginning, it's still a little bit about joy. Yeah, maybe, they put these nice little pictures into text, so it's fun to learn how to read. But there is already a goal. There is already a future that you have to reach by what you are doing right now. And that future is that you learn how to read. So the future is you will know how to read. Yeah? Now, there is nothing bad with that. Yeah, I'm pro people being able to read. But school is not designed, or I haven't come across a school system yet, and I didn't really go into the alternative schools because you have to have money to go there, so it's a privilege. Yeah, I'm focusing on normal school systems. The thing is that there is no time and no space for the individual to develop their unique skills. We all need to fit, because that's capitalism again. We need to fit into this structure, and whoever doesn't necessarily fit into the structure will have to cut off one arm or one leg. I mean, that's metaphorically speaking, but these are the kids that have to take Ritalin to fit in, which I strongly disagree with. But then again, those that don't get it, they will have it even harder in the future, because the job system is designed like that, the educational system is designed like that, everything is designed like that. And I strongly believe that the only way to get people with ADHD to learn things is to spark their interest in what they have to learn. Yeah, they are just very strong in following their joy. Because if you've ever seen an ADHD person in their creative urge or in their hyper-focus state, they can be super productive, or we can be super productive, because I'm one of them. But if I'm not interested in the things at hand, I had to learn discipline from a very young age. So I can do a lot of things that I don't think are bringing me joy, but that didn't necessarily always lead to a fulfilled life, So anyways, drifting apart a little bit here. What I'm wanting to point out is, if we would have a school system that's designed in, how can we keep the joy alive in doing what you are doing right now, then it would be a lot more wholesome, and we would still stay in contact with our inner self. Yeah. But nowadays, school is just doing a lot of things that, no matter if you want to do them or not, you have to do them, you have to succeed in them, and otherwise you're stupid or not so intelligent or a failure or whatever. And so there it comes in that you only belong if you fit into that structure. Yeah, and that can be the social structure with the other children. In my experience, when there is no good teacher that has space to look at the social dynamics of his class, it can go really southwards. In our school, one class locked the teacher in, and he was in a closet for 3 hours, and he never really recovered from that. So, there's just so much wrong with this. And wrong is the wrong word. It's more it was a part of the evolution, because we are here now. So for some reason we had to get here, right? But what I'm trying to say is that we get flooded with information of, be it learn to read, learn to talk, learn to calculate things. And, like our focus is already on the outside. Like, what do we need to learn to achieve certain things? Yeah, it's not about being embodied anymore. It's not about just being there anymore. And that's where the first hole starts to develop. And the more we stay focused on the outside when we are older, the bigger these holes get, because we're always trying to find something on the outside to fill the hole. Now, when I as a kid not allowed to do what I want to do anymore because I'm in school and I have to learn what they teach me, although I think is stupid, there I have to dissociate. I cannot just run off. Yeah, so I have to, like, I was like a dreamer in school. I didn't want to be there, so I just, like, I was somewhere else. I read a lot of books when I was young, so I still do, but so I had this fantasy, and I wasn't really present at any time. So I learned how to dissociate on a very high level very early on. And I think that's what makes me such a good shaman, because I'm really good in traveling other worlds. But also it's what makes it really hard for me to stay grounded and to stay present in a moment. And it took me, like, now I'm almost 36, so it took me a lot of time to get where like where I am now, and realizing what was missing, because it's so funny. Like, I think I'm telling you this with my own story. And that story is that, so I had all these holes because, like, I couldn't live a life that I felt like was worth living, because I like to be in the moment and I like to experience things. I don't like to always think about the future or the past. I also don't necessarily have to travel all the time. Like that was when I was a kid already, because we traveled quite a lot. And I mean, it was nice, but I always missed that, like, having time, just being at home in summer, having 5 weeks of holidays and just having time to be here, not having to do anything, not having to go to school all the time. And of course, it's beautiful to have all these stories, how you visited America or whatever, but I always miss this kind of just like slowing down, yeah, that having space to process information, because that's what it's all about. And that's what the revolution I'm talking about would be about too, is that this world is so loud and so distractive. So, like, we always want to belong, but we can never belong because it's too fast. You can't even belong to the outside because it's too quick nowadays. But so I was looking for that, like, at some point I think I forgot it, I guess in my teenage years. I forgot how much I like the quiet and the slow down and, the just the stillness of things, and just like being in the forest alone with the birds and the trees, and just being there, feeling all of this very present, just being there. And there is no goal. I don't have to be anywhere. At some point I took over the mechanism of the society I was living in. So there always needs to be a goal. Like today I'm the opposite. Like, I go to the forest, but I have this, like, tree, and I visit this tree, because if I don't have a goal, it gets really hard for me to do things. Like, it gets better now because I practice a lot of mindfulness and of being in the moment, but usually I need to have a goal nowadays, and that's conditioned and I know it, but like all I can do is work with it, right? So for the moment it will let go when it's time for it to let go, but for now all I can do is say, okay, like, if I need a goal to do something, then I'll create a goal. Yeah, so I have this tree and I have to visit it. That's the goal. So, and this tree is not at the border of the forest, it's in the forest, it's very far in the forest, so I have to have a big walk to visit it. And this actually gives you a sense of belonging, visiting a tree in the forest, because this tree is always there. And it's always happy to see you, no matter if you feel it or not. But so to go back to the main topic. So at some point we have developed some of these holes because some parts of where we grew up in, some of the spaces didn't give us the feeling that we belong the way we are. But we belong when we do this or when we behave like that, all these conditionings, everything that gets put into us. And all of this is information. It's information. And as long as we keep on doing things, and that also concerns healing, like doing therapy all the time. As long as we keep doing things and eat more information, we cannot really get rid of the information that was planted in the beginning. So Buddhists are actually very right when they say that we have to become empty and then we can become full. You have to become empty of the world and of everything that the world told you about yourself, about your life, about what life is in general, about the universe. And then you can fill yourself up with your own answers, because you have your own answers. Everyone has their own answers. But as long as everybody's just parroting what everybody else is saying and not really feeling their own truth and living their own truth, we cannot really change anything. Yeah? We all contain shadows and light, and as long as we keep our energy focused on the outside and we still look for somebody to tell us that we're doing a good job, nobody will ever come and tell you that. You have to be that person. You have to become that person. And how do we do that? How do we start such a revolution? By really clearing out anything on information that we don't need. Why do we doom scroll? Because we want to belong. We want to find another post that makes us laugh, because laughter is a social thing, so we feel like we belong. What do you think? Everybody's so lonely, but now all these and the reels that are trending the most, or the TikToks that are trending the most, are funny things. Why? Because we feel so lonely, and laughter makes us feel like we're in a social environment, although we're just watching TV alone at home. So doom scrolling, gaming, taking drugs, all of these things are ways of making us feel like we belong, when all that would be needed for us to really feel like we belong, and that in a long-term sense, is to calm down, to look at the music we listen to very closely, and just say, for 1 month, I will only listen to music that makes me feel happy. Not necessarily hyped up and not sad, just content and happy with myself. I will only watch movies or series that cover topics that really interest me, that spark something in me, that I don't want to miss a second of. I quit reading all magazines and newspapers that do not give me any value. I'm sorry, but most of us do not need to know anything that's written in the newspapers. We do not need to know it. It just makes us miserable. Yeah. You will always know about the important things, believe me. Then mute all the people that maybe trigger, not necessarily trigger is the wrong word, but unfollow everyone that gives you a shitty feeling about yourself for a month. And I'm not saying get rid of all the triggers and live a happy life ever after. But the thing is that what happens in our childhood creates stories within ourselves. And these stories are repeated over and over and over again. But as long as we are focusing on the stories on the outside and the next high and the next adrenaline and the next thing that makes me feel like I belong and that hole is gone, although I will feel that hole again in 2 days, we can never clearly hear the stories that are underneath, that are within. And those are the stories that form everything around us. Yeah? Like, if our father never had time or interest in us, we will subconsciously try to get his approval by getting approval from the world. And the thing is that no matter how much approval the world will give you, it will never be enough, because it's not your father's approval, and that's what you crave subconsciously. And the only one who can actually go to your subconscious and talk to it and make it grow to a point where it understands that it didn't get what it needed back then, but you can give it what was needed back then now. As long as you don't do that, nothing will change. Everything is on the inside. No matter what you want to change in the world, it doesn't matter. If you think we shouldn't eat animals anymore, if you think we should take better care of climate change, if you think, like, whatever, we should treat each other better, it doesn't matter. The job is an inside job. It's not an outside job. The outside follows once the inside is ready. When the inside energy is clear, focused, the outside follows. Yeah? Like so many other people, I really had to clear my whole field of a lot of people, a lot of influence, and it was lonely and it was boring. And there was this part of me that just wanted to get out and get a high on cocaine or whatever and just go out and forget myself, lose myself again. And you know, I repeated that pattern of going into it and out of it so many times until it was enough. And I realized, like, fuck, no, I'm not paying that price anymore. I'm not doing that anymore, because in the end, I'm paying the system a favor. If I destroy myself with this shit, I'm doing them a favor. This is how the revolution dies, with all of us dissociating, getting high all the time, partying all the time, and not looking at what is really there. Yeah, and like also consuming, like, whatever, drinking alcohol so much, like all of these things, all of the things that make us dissociate, and I'm no exception here, right? Like, we are all a part of it. All of us dissociate in one way or another, and it's okay to do that to calm down in the evening, you know? We need to dissociate sometimes to even be able to relax. But we cannot do it all the time. If all of us believe that it's not our problem and that we are not a part of it, then we are a bigger part of it than we think, because not thinking like we are not a part of the bigger things at hand is dissociation. That's like dividing again. We are all part of the great mystery that unfolds here, that we call life. And no matter if we are directly involved or not, we all, right here, right now, we live our life. And our life is a story that's written, that will be written by our actions and inactions, and by what we say and by what we don't say, and by what we have the courage to speak about and by what we don't have the courage to speak about. And this is the story of Earth. We write the story of Earth by living our lives. So it's our duty to live a life in alignment with our core values and to not be distracted all the time by a machinery that wants to keep us distracted, that wants to feed us sugar all the time. And like, I eat sugar, but like, it always depends on how much sugar you eat and or whatever you take in, and if you are aware of what it does to you. Yeah, and sugar is like, you know, like, no matter what it is, like, no matter what you consume. And that's a thing that I want to point towards. What you eat, literally has such a big effect on your body. And you can imagine the same thing with every word that reaches your ears or your eyes. It's food. And by reading it or listening to it, you take it in. Yeah? And if you are super conscious and meditate since many years, maybe you are able to switch off and say, okay, this information just goes through and I forget about it again. But believe me, that takes a lot of mental training. And most of us are not able to do that. So the best way to not be confronted with it is to shut it out and to really clean all the information channels. How much spam is there? When did you delete the trash can the last time, or empty the trash can the last time? You know, we have so many channels. Do we have playlists with music that maybe there is a track on that you don't really like, but you just skip it every time? Delete it from the playlist now. We're so used to things not being fully what we want them to be, that we design our lives around that. And as long as there is information that is not 100% aligned with my core values or with what I believe in, and of course we talk about values and beliefs that do not harm anybody else, but as long as I keep people in my life that I very strongly disagree with and that cannot be in disagreement with me, I think that's a big difference. If I have people that maybe have a very different opinion than I have towards feminism or whatever, but they're not harming anyone and they can have a very good and reflected discussion with me, they maybe can still stay in the field. But if they have this very backwards oriented opinion about things, then they're not the right person to be around. And again, here, we often fill our time with people and actions that we do not really feel, but we still do them because we want to belong, because there is this hole. And, it's just not happening from today to tomorrow that this hole starts to fill up. But I'm going to describe to you what actually is the difference that you start to feel once you fill it up. Yeah, once you were able to look at your stories and maybe clarify some things. My focus shifted again from doing to being. Yeah? I give you an example. If I let's say 3 years ago I wanted to learn something new, a new hobby, and I would start something and then I would already be in my mind what can I do with it? What's the goal? What can I create? What can I what's the creation that comes from me doing that? Yeah? And now I just started to crochet. I did it in school, but now I started again. And I just crocheted and I didn't even have a goal. I was just crocheting. I'm not sure if I say this word right, but anyways, yeah, I hope you understand what I mean. So I was just doing that, and at some point I had this super long thing that I crocheted, but it wasn't a thing. It was just me having this joy of doing that with my hands, and just the whole process of feeling the yarn slide through my fingers, and then having the hook, grabbing the yarn, pulling it through, and then, making that again. And this watching this play of my fingers and the yarn and the hook, and then looking at this, I don't know, piece of scarf for a cat or something. I don't know, it was just a piece of, I don't know, that was the result of it. And I was like, wow, I did that. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It's not a thing, but it's, wow, I can do that. Wow, it's so beautiful. It's amazing. I mean, I have a body that can learn how to do that so quickly. Wow, that's so amazing. And then I was like, oh, Now I wanna do something, because it's a bit like, I waste a lot of yarn if I just crochet and there's no goal to it, and my cat doesn't necessarily wear scarves. So I was like, okay, what can I create that I just have to do a lot of crocheting, like where I like, it's like you see already, it's not about the result anymore. It's about, I just want to do that, and I want to keep on doing it. And I really strongly believe that that's what life is about. Life, and that's why I also don't believe in retirement and all of these things, like the people that really live their passion, they never retire at 65. Yeah, you only do that if you live if you're doing a job that's very bureaucratic and that's very systematic, and that's only needed because there is a system called capitalism in place. All the other jobs you will not stop at 65. Maybe that's a bit like, I have to look into what I just said a bit deeper, but I think it's true. I think it's really true. So anyways, back to business. What I wanted to point out is, the more that hole within is filled, the less it's about talking about what you do, the less it's about presenting what you do, the less it's about getting somewhere with what you do, the more it's about being the being that does that and enjoying it in all its physical reality. Like when these holes are filled, everything feels different. Like they say that also in trauma therapy, that your nervous system is capable of experiencing more input because it's not so stressed with filling the holes anymore, in my language now. So I can sense more of everything I touch. I smell even better than before. I taste even better than before. And I already had a very good sense of smell and taste before. I hear very good. I see better. I mean, my eyesight went better 1.5 dioptries. That's a lot in one eye. Due to healing, due to arriving in my body, due to working with the conditionings and working with the subconscious and doing what I call the revolution of the mind. And the beautiful thing is that it makes you feel so much more alive and in the moment, that you lose the fear. Like, I never was afraid of aging, but I really lost the fear of aging, and you lose the fear of not being liked, because you like yourself, right? And you feel at home in your body, and you feel like you belong in your body. And that makes all the difference, because that's the only place you ever had to belong to. That's the only place that was yearning for you to fully be there and fully embody it. And I know that there are certain kinds of information that we cannot just like switch off. Like if we are heavy drinkers or using other substances or very strong habit animals, so to speak. That's how we call them in German. Then it might not be possible to just like turn the switch and get rid of all the information, because like anything is an information. Next week I want to talk about drugs, because they're information too. Cocaine is an information, LSD is an information, going to a rave is information, psytrance is information, breakcore is information, hip-hop is information. Everything is information, everything that surrounds you. And if you like really look at that for 1 second, it can even start to freak out a little bit, because there is shitloads of information all around us all the time. And although it might get scary a little bit in the beginning, it's a good thing that it's a bit scary, because then we also realize that, wow, there's so much information shouting at my consciousness all the time. It wants to grab my focus away from me all the time. Everything wants to grab your attention. That's what it's designed to do. Like, like next to me right now is a bookshelf, and for sure these books have very big letters on their backs, so they want to grab my attention, so I look at the book. That's not a bad thing. The thing is that we produced way too much in the last 30 years, so we possess way too much, so that there is a lot of information stored that screams at us all the time. Then since COVID, social media isn't what it was before, so we get flooded with bullshit all the time, and every third story is a promotion or an ad or something like that. So there is just, it's too much. And we are the only ones that can say, okay, stop this. Okay, like I'm taking 10 minutes in silence every day at least. Like I'm in silence a lot of times, a lot of times, although I love listening to music so much. But, like I also tend to, I give you another example just so it gets a little bit easier for you maybe to implement. Like when I have to do a lot of things, my mind goes to, okay, now we'll listen to my Attitude playlist because there's a lot of very nice hip hop and it pushes me. And, it's like, it's a rather aggressive hip hop in that playlist. And sometimes that can help, but actually the playlist is called Attitude for a reason. It's when like I have to go to the city and I don't feel like exposing myself to people, or when I have issues with my self-worth and I question everything I do, then I like to listen to it. So it's more for that. But when I have a lot on my plate, that's not normally when I question myself. So when I have a lot on my plate, I realize that when I then listen to this playlist, wow, I can get really aggravated and my nervous system really gets stressed. And like, I don't want to do what I do in that moment because it's just too much. And so I found this playlist on Spotify that's called Relaxing Music. And it's a super relaxing music. Like I feel some people fall asleep when they listen to it. But now I'm like in this high energy focused state where I'm like, oh my God, I have to do so much, but it's cool because I can upload new designs to Redbubble and I made this improvement to the web app and blah, 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 and then I listen to this relaxing music and I get way more done because I have this like kind of balance to the energy I'm in. Yeah, like when I'm tired in the morning and I really need to get into the flow to get ready, it's not the right playlist to listen to. Then maybe the Attitude playlist would be better, but even better would be the normal hip hop playlist. So you see, that's why I also have many different playlists, and most of them like actually go towards certain moods. And I rarely listen to them when I have that mood, but I more listen to them when I'm not in that mood to kind of counterbalance, yeah? So, because then we also stay connected with everything, right? Because otherwise, like, if I only listen to that Attitude playlist when I feel really, really good about myself, chances are that I will just like feel like I'm the king of the world and I'm like, I don't know, I'm right all the time and I'm better than anyone or whatever, because I just push that too much. Yeah, it's also good training in staying humble and, like understanding where the energy goes and how that can fluctuate within ourselves. Yeah, like, I don't know, like, what's the point in feeling so good about yourself? And then when you open social media and you see a post of somebody else that maybe you believe they do things better than you or whatever, they can present themselves better or whatever, and you get triggered and you feel like shit, like, then what's the worth in the other part? Yeah, so finding that balance and also understanding that we all do it right, exactly the way we do it, and some might be better in presenting themselves, others might be better in speaking, others be better in doing. But the most important thing is that we be it. Yeah? The most important thing is being what you want to live and being with that. Yeah? What's the point in becoming, like, I don't know, a globally renowned music artist when you don't like playing music? When you don't like being on stage and playing music for people? Then that's a dream that was imprinted onto you from somewhere else. Like maybe you really like to do music, but you don't want to go on stage, so there's another path waiting for you. And that's a path that we mostly find when we really drop into ourselves and we really start to fill the holes there. And some of us, they have like these holes that are really manageable just by oneself or with good friends and good support systems. And others need more like attention, like trauma therapy or working with shamans or with master plants. And it's a very unique way. But to finish this here, I strongly believe that the only way of a revolution nowadays, because the internet is fucked, everything is fucked by capitalism, like everything. So the only way is the insight. The only way is to really get clear on what we want to focus on, get clear what we want to have in our reality and what not. And I'm not talking about ignorance here, yeah? We cannot just deny things and they're not existent anymore. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about, what do I clutter my mind with every day that is maybe not really serving me, that maybe even makes me feel down? And do I really need to do that? Or can I give myself some sense of belonging? Can I give myself a hug or a hand? What part of myself is it that actually is telling this story that I'm currently believing about myself and about the world? How old is this part of myself? How does it react when I approach it and talk to it? Because that's the thing, I know it sounds absurd, but they say we are the universe, and I strongly believe that, yeah? So I strongly believe that when you zoom out enough, we will be in another being, like our whole galaxies. And if you zoom in close enough, there are galaxies within. So I have all the archetypes within myself. I have the archetype of the mother, I have the archetype of the father, I have the archetype of the son, and I have the archetype of the daughter. I have the archetype of the dancer, and I have the archetype of the healer, the archetype of the queen, of the king, of the god, of the goddess, of the devil, of Lilith. We all have so many archetypes within ourselves. And these archetypes were used by us as children to tell stories. And depending on what stories we told ourselves because of what happened on the outside, these archetypes are at peace with one another or they aren't. And in most of us, they aren't, because we didn't grow up in necessarily very peaceful environments. And the revolution I'm talking about is befriending those archetypes, traveling to those archetypes and integrating their teachings. Because we do not need to repeat what others said on the outside. Like when we resonate with something, we can take it in and then we can process it ourselves and make it our own truth, and then it will sound different. And I believe that's what we're here to do. Yeah, humans are bridges between this world and the other world. Yeah, the material world of things and the spirit world of things. And a lot of the information that we never processed and that got stuck as kind of a programming or conditioning within ourselves actually clogs the information channels that should deliver new information freely. But because they're so clogged, the information can't run through a lot of systems. And how can a revolution on the outside happen if the juice for it cannot flow through the systems because they're clogged by conditioning? Yeah, I really hope. I say this so many times, I promise myself I don't say it anymore. Like, I hope that made sense. Because in the end, it doesn't even have to make sense, right? Like, you either like listening to me or you don't. And that's all there is to say to that, right? Like, I don't have to be right or wrong, or it doesn't have to make sense at all. Like, I really enjoy talking into this microphone every week, and I really enjoy that, like, sometimes I get glimpses that people are actually listening to what I'm saying. So, very grateful for that. And I hope you enjoy listening to me, whether I make sense or not. And yeah, I wish you a lovely weekend ahead. And thank you so much for your attention and focus. Oh, and if you have any questions towards what I said today, there is a comment field below the podcast in Spotify. So you can send something there and I will receive it, and then I can reply in the next podcast if you'd like to start a conversation. Okay, have a lovely day and much love. Bye bye.